The evening sun dipped low over the quiet suburban streets of Willow Creek, casting a golden hue over the rooftops. Officer Daniel Hayes was finishing what he thought would be another calm, uneventful shift. The hum of his patrol car blended with the distant chirp of crickets. Peaceful. Almost too peaceful. Just as he reached for the radio to sign off, a faint, desperate sound cut through the calm. The unmistakable cry of a child. Daniel's head snapped toward the noise. From the corner of his eye, he saw a small figure running down the sidewalk. A little girl, no older than 6, tears streaking her cheeks as she waved frantically for him to stop. He hit the brakes and jumped out of the car. The girl's tiny hands trembled as she tried to speak through sobs. Her light blue dress was wrinkled, her hair tangled as though she'd been running for a long time. Please, please follow me home, she cried, her voice cracking with fear. Daniel knelt down to her level, his eyes meeting hers. There was something in that look, fear, confusion, and a fragile spark of hope. Instinct told him this was no ordinary call for help. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of compassion, please take a moment to like, share, comment, and subscribe to Stories by BB. Your support helps us bring touching stories like this to life. Okay, Daniel said softly. Show me where to go. The girl didn't waste a second. She grabbed his hand, her small fingers gripping tight, and began to run. Her name, he soon learned between sobs, was Lila. They moved quickly through narrow streets where the houses grew older and the silence heavier. Daniel could feel the tension rise with every step. Something was wrong. Very wrong. When they reached a small, worn-down house at the end of the lane, his heart sank. The yard was overgrown, the mailbox hung crooked, and the front door was slightly open. Lila pointed inside. "Mommy's not waking up," she whispered. Daniel took a deep breath and stepped in. Inside, the air was heavy and stale. The living room showed signs of struggle. Scattered clothes, unopened mail, and a faint smell of sickness. Lila led him down a short hallway to a dimly lit bedroom, where a young woman, no older than her mid-20s, lay motionless on the bed. "Mommy," Lila whispered again, shaking her gently. Daniel rushed forward and checked for a pulse. It was there, faint but steady. Her breathing was shallow, her skin pale. He immediately called for an ambulance. While waiting, he knelt beside Lila. "Hey, sweetheart, what's your mom's name?" "Her name is Hannah," she whispered, wiping her tears. "She's been sick. I tried to make soup, but the stove's too high. I didn't know what else to do." Daniel's heart tightened. The little girl had stayed by her mother's side for days, too scared to leave, until she finally gathered the courage to run out and find help. Moments later, paramedics arrived. Daniel carried Lila outside as they placed her mother on a stretcher. She refused to let go of his hand. He drove behind the ambulance, sirens wailing in the distance. At the hospital, time seemed to move slower. The waiting area's white lights felt harsh, the air thick with antiseptic. Lila sat quietly beside him, clutching her teddy bear. One ear torn, fur faded. When the doctor finally emerged, his expression was serious but calm. "Hannah's going to be okay," he said. "She collapsed from exhaustion, dehydration, and untreated pneumonia. She's been overworking herself for too long." Daniel nodded in relief. Lila buried her face in his sleeve and cried, this time out of relief. As the hours passed, he learned more. Hannah had been raising Lila alone ever since her husband left 2 years earlier. With no family around, she worked night shifts as a cleaner and skipped meals just to keep the lights on. Daniel realized this wasn't just a one-time rescue. It was the start of something bigger. Over the next few days, Daniel couldn't stop thinking about them. He visited the hospital often, bringing small gifts, coloring books for Lila, warm soup for Hannah. Each visit brought a little more color back into their world. But when Hannah was finally ready to be discharged, Daniel knew the struggle wasn't over. She'd go home to unpaid bills and an empty fridge, so he quietly made some calls. He reached out to local charities, community centers, and even his fellow officers. Within days, donations began to arrive. Boxes of food, clothes, furniture, and envelopes with handwritten notes of encouragement. When Hannah finally returned home, she stopped at the doorway, speechless. The house was clean, the fridge full, the bills paid. The broken porch light had been fixed, and neighbors she'd never met before were standing on the lawn with smiles and warm words. Tears streamed down her face. Lila ran from room to room, giggling in disbelief. Daniel stood a few steps back, trying to hold back his own emotions. Hannah turned to him and said softly, "I don't know how to thank you." "You already did," he replied, glancing at Lila, who was now hugging her mother tightly. "You raised a brave little girl." From that day forward, the people of Willow Creek made sure Hannah and Lila were never alone again. They checked in, shared meals, and treated them like family. Hannah found a stable job at a local bakery, one that allowed her to spend more time with her daughter. Weeks later, Daniel drove by their home again. The yard was clean, the laughter of children filled the air, and Hannah was sitting on the porch, waving as he passed. As he parked nearby, he saw Lila playing with her friends, carefree and smiling. It was a sight that reminded him why he chose to serve. not just to enforce laws, but to protect hope. He stood there for a moment, hands in his pockets, a gentle smile on his face. Because sometimes, the smallest voices, like Lila's tearful plea that night, can lead to the greatest acts of kindness. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Stories by BB. It helps us continue sharing real, emotional stories that remind us all kindness still exists in the world.